All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Ged. Today, we're here to not talk about Star Wars, but something that kind of feels like Star Wars and was almost Star Wars, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
Wonderful. You?
Great.
You all
Great,
set for
great.
the holidays? The kids and everybody all healthy 100% again?
Yeah. We endured the sickness for like a solid 3 weeks.
Yeah, you had like the plague going through there.
Yeah. I think we came out of it just in perfect timing. So, knock on wood, we're ready to go.
Oh boy.
So today we have Rebel Moon, debuted on Netflix a couple days ago. Part 1, A Child on Fire. This was originally, apparently, Zack Snyders' pitch to Disney to make a Star Wars film. I think he pitched this not recently. I think it was a while ago. I think when they were originally in the planning stages for stuff. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. But this was like in the early days of Disney Star Wars. They passed on it. And you can totally feel not only, hat tips. What's the word I'm looking for? Homage to Star Wars. But you could kind of feel it being in that environment to a degree, I'll say. And we could definitely jump into it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess right away. I mean, I didn't. It is unbelievable the parallels to this. Like, this is the coolest audition tape for a Star Wars I think I've ever seen. It's super cool.
Yeah, so we start off on the small little farming moon, and literally I don't want to say it's my problem. My whole lens, how I viewed this entire movie, was as a Star Wars movie. And the reason I viewed it as that was because it was pitched as a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And then B, a lot of the people, I'm just happy to get any great sci-fi, which I'm happy this got released. I don't care if it's Star Wars or whatever, just give us good content. But there's a huge narrative online. I know you don't pay attention to this stuff, but I get it on Twitter. That, the people who were maybe upset with the way the Disney Star Wars were going were super pumped for this, thinking this was going to be the next great big IP, and it was going to be a kind of a spit in the face of Disney. Like, that's what you get for rejecting our boy Zach, sort of thing. So that's kind of the lens I viewed it as. And like right from the get-go, when you see their dreadnought enter, in my head I'm just like, that would have been a Star Destroyer.
100%.
Coming over. And when the drop ships come down, like, those would have been shuttles with the TIE fighters surrounding them. Like,
yep. Even the way they enter the larger ships through the little force field. I mean, it is
yeah. And even when the bigger ships land and the hatch comes down, you can see the steam coming off. And then the one thing, so I hadn't watched a lot of the trailers, so I was almost expecting, like, how are they going to make these troopers look like what's his style of a stormtrooper going to be? And we kind of got, I don't want to say I was disappointed, but it was kind of very, very, I don't want to say generic, like very just regular soldiery. Whereas the officers were very much Nazi-esque, right? And George based his stormtroopers and stuff off the Germans and stuff like that. So like, I get taking that angle and going like a little bit of a different, like they went, like it looked very grounded, so to speak. Like it looked like it could have been filmed in, our solar system, right? Like, I mean, our galaxy, so to speak.
The soldiers reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you were ever into this series. I was a huge fan, The Chronicles of Riddick. Yes. They look like the necromancer.
Oh, they did. They did.
There is a large portion of this that reminds me of the Chronicles of Riddick from some of the cinematic cues. Some of the fight scenes were very, very indicative of, especially the second one, The Chronicles of Riddick, which is easily the best of Pitch Black, The Chronicles, and then Riddick.
Yeah.
The differentiating between, high command versus the soldiers, they literally look like slightly more monochromatic necromancers.
Yeah. I can't believe I was so wrapped up with Star Wars. I didn't even think like I love the Riddick movies. I didn't even.
It had some Riddick to it. Oh my God, did this have some Riddick to it? I loved it. Yes, I mean my first overarching 30 seconds is I get it. There is some really cool, tributes and homages to Star Wars. I mean, the personality of the droid, Anthony Hopkins, I believe that's got to assume
it's got to be him. Yeah,
holy
I didn't check, but it's got to be him.
Crap! I loved it. The one thing Zack Snyder did in this, I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit, is he did the single greatest job of developing a character in all of 15 minutes that I have seen in any property that has taken this on. When you look at some of the new sci-fi and superhero stuff, if you really look at a lot of the root of the complaints, a lot of it is that it's not that you can't relate to the character, you can't engage with that character. One of the biggest things with Rey when she first came on the scene, and as much as she was a massive part of The Force Awakens, I really felt like there was a miss in that connection with Rey. When you looked at the Eternals that just came out a few years ago from Marvel, after coming off and we've talked about this a lot, right? The first 3 cinematic pieces of the universe, where like you loved these characters as they went into Infinity War and Endgame. The Eternals really missed because you really couldn't connect with any of these characters. And, I have a very unpopular opinion. I loved a lot of these characters. I don't think we got the opportunity to really kind of connect with them. Every single time they came across a new character in this movie, in 8 minutes, you were bound to them, whether it was Titus, whether it was Nemesis. Oh my God, the scene with Nemesis, like, he was so good at introducing a character, and 8 minutes later you already loved them, good or bad. And I think that was what was done so well. There is some ode to 300 in here. There's some incredible ode to
I have written down, like, this movie feels like visually 300
mixed in with the Chronicles of Riddick. It is a very emotional version of a Star Wars. Sorry, that's just my initial rant, because I messaged you when I was 20 really minutes into it, and I'm like, holy shit, I can't wait to talk about this thing.
And I was like, man, I think you're gonna be way more positive on this than I was.
Now, I will say, I'm not saying it was an incredible movie. I think it's very important. I was excited to watch it. I loved how they developed the characters. There is a but, though, and we can talk about that.
So if you want to stick to the beginning, when we get introduced to our main character, like you said, quickly find out her story, kind of, and they set her up in her first moment where she's got to make a decision when they're going to do bad things to the young female, and she steps up with the axe. And like in that moment, I was like, yeah, this is a sweet moment. Like, she's about to get her moment. The one thing, and like this is a Zack Snyder problem for me with this film. And again, maybe it's because I was expecting Star Wars or not, but there was so many slow motion cuts in this film. It made some of the action scenes drag for me, unfortunately. And like that just might be my opinion, but like I thought those
take your mind off of Star Wars, and I want you to think.
That's why I thought That's why I thought 300, right? Like, the knife would come in through the sword, and then as soon as he hits, then it goes slow motion. And they every time there's a blaster turn or swing, everything was just, there was so much slow motion. I just thought it could have benefited from being able to roll, But that's Zack Snyder's style, though. So like, I can't get on it too much.
And the story part of it, I love it because there's a lot of Thanos Gamora there. So a great hat tip from a story perspective to the relationship between, her father from Titan, which again, like there's even a lot of the names kind of jumping and around, right? Titus versus, Titan planet. But I thought that was an interesting take, but you're right. There was maybe a little too much 300 in there.
It works with swords, right? Because But when you're shooting blasters, I don't know, like to me, like blasters are supposed to have like speed, and when you slow them down, it's just I don't know. And that's the one part that I thought was a little bit of a miss for me. But again, it's like it's not the end of the world. It's just Zack Snyder's style.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, I would love to see what he would do in Star Wars, because would Kathy and Star Wars be like, no, you can't do that. Like,
yeah,
it's got to be. And like, again, if he did get permission to shoot a Star Wars movie, I'm assuming he would shoot it in that aesthetic, right?
Yeah,
like that styling. But
yeah. I agree that it was a little dragged on from an action sequence, but he did action very well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
There was no lack of engagement in those scenes.
Yeah. And talking about those scenes, I know we're jumping around a lot, but there's did you see the Forbes article that Zack Snyder did the interview on? So he basically came out and said that there's 2 cuts to this film already. He said there's a director's cut that's basically a rated R cut, and he says it almost feels like a different movie from a different universe than what Netflix released. So
interesting.
I think you could see it in all those action movies when they did quick cuts when there's about to be a skull smashed or a point blank shot, and then they pivoted. You could see those were probably all shots finished to the end, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So I could see the rated R cut bleeding through it. And some of the drama out there is, why the hell would Netflix, apparently Netflix told from the beginning, make your director's cut, but we're going to make a different cut, like right from the get-go. So some people are thinking it's a bit of a publicity stunt scam, because the whole Snyder cut with Justice League. So now not only do they get to release this, then they release part 2 in April or whatever, but then after
April 19th.
Then after they run their course, then all of a sudden 2 director's cuts from Zack Snyder drop. So it's like they're really milking the cow, probably as a bit of a whatever.
But if you want this to become a piece of cinema, if you want this to be a franchise, we can say that they're milking it a bit. But I think that viewers are really moving in 2 different directions when it comes to how they want that content. We had 15 years of Marvel, which was a smash hit, but there was nothing R-rated about it.
No.
And then you had Deadpool come up, which is very R-rated. By the way, the villain, Ajax from Deadpool, love that guy. So I think it's actually interesting, and I disagree with you on the whole normal cut versus director cut, to see where this goes, and then to see if they want to continue the franchise in one of those themes, I think is actually kind of brilliant. They're basically A/B testing an entire movie. The old marketing thing, right? Where you send out 2 email campaigns and you see which one gets better traction. They're literally doing this with a large scale movie.
But can't you just give us the best? Like, you must know internally what the best version of that is. Don't show me a mediocre version of it and then tell me like 5 months later I'm going to get a better cut of it.
It's not about better. It's about different. It's about graphic versus commercial. It's about rated R versus rated PG-13. We had 15 years of PG-13. Right now, I mean, how many massive movies have you seen in the last 5 years that they have spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on that have tanked? A lot. I cannot blame them at all for running 2 different, because one isn't necessarily better than the other. Like you literally said the quote, they would be like 2 different movies from 2 different universes. This is basically Zack Snyder saying, how do you want to watch this? Do you want it this way? Or do you want it this way? And then let the viewers decide. I kind of dig it.
Well, okay. Let's go down this rabbit hole for a second. For one, if the intent of the story, the characters doesn't change, then I'm okay with it. Sorry. But if we But if we get like fundamentally 2 different movies, then I got a problem with it, because then it's like, which one is the right one? Right? Like if you're changing if the story changes between the 2 of them. But
he
if one
didn't say it
would
change. He just said they would be from 2 different universes. It'd be 2 different ways of experiencing the same content.
That's what I'm saying. As long as the one cut is just, say it's more gore, add a little added character development, but doesn't change the theatrical cut you want to say, then I'm all for it. Okay. And like, if you want to go down the rabbit hole further, if that becomes like a new ways things doing something, can you imagine like Disney releases, here's the PG version of Ahsoka and here's the rated R version of Ahsoka season 2? Like, I'd watch the rated R version every time.
Yeah. Fair, but I think the
more dismemberment.
I think the beauty about this not being a Star Wars is that there is that creative freedom.
Yeah.
I don't see Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, anybody okaying, multiple versions of the same thing in the Star Wars universe. I wish they would.
Well, to your point, as a business decision, you could essentially double dip. Release
100%.
the one the family can enjoy early, and then slip out a director's cut out there. And
this isn't new, man. Deadpool did this. Deadpool released their rated R version and then released a family-friendly version, and it went bonkers. Both did really well.
Yeah,
because they allowed the same movie to be consumed. So, like, we have friends that have kids that loved watching Marvel with us, but they couldn't watch Deadpool for like 4 or 5 months. So when they finally got to watch Deadpool, they got to enjoy it without all the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the rated R version went well, so you saw Deadpool 2. You didn't see a family version, but they literally got to A/B test the market.
Yeah,
it's not like this is revolutionary.
No, well, it's just it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
But I'm here for it. I'm here for it because it looked like 3 or 4 of sci-fi properties that I loved, and I alluded to them earlier.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm a big Riddick fan, so it's probably what I'm going to end up watching tonight.
Yeah. The biggest nod to Star Wars was they gave a cantina scene.
Not the droid. The droid wasn't the big nod.
No, the cantina scene. Because not only is there a cantina scene, but the farmer, the newbie, is the one who gets picked on by the disfigured guy.
Yeah.
And starts pushing him around. And then the girl, the veteran, our Obi-Wan Kenobi, quickly destroys him in the bar. And not only that is they got to find a pilot with a ship in the bar. Who's there? The backstabbing Han Solo.
Han Solo. I was so bummed when Han Solo, Charlie Hunnam, who I have a legit man crush on. It's not a secret. I have a huge Charlie Hunnam crush.
I like him too.
It was heartbreaking when spoiler, when he ended up being a bad guy at the end. I was like, no, please. Yeah, I was. What did you think of jumping around? What did you think of the scene of the Neuralink at the end? That is something I would have loved. Like that to me is in a weird way. And call me out if I'm a stretch here, because there's been conversations about certain people in the Star Wars universe living very, very long lives, and no one really knew how to do that well. To me, that was like Zack Snyder doing this a little bit. That is how you do it.
Yeah.
And he nailed it.
Yeah,
what did you think?
Well, to me, it was a cool piece of like sci-fi. It was I've been trying to rack my brain because we have seen, I don't want to say something exactly similar, but we have seen like consciousness travel, right? In sci-fi before, but it was a cool way to do it with all the way they hooked him up. Essentially, it was a corpse when they picked him up.
Yeah.
And then he was able to report because he still had brain activity, and then they jump started him up again. It was pretty cool. I did have a question. So obviously that reveals something in that scene.
Yeah.
And this is what maybe I was just confused and missed it. So that's her father, but I thought,
well, that's her father figure.
Oh, that's the general who took her in?
I assume so. I assume that's not the slain king. I assume that's
well, no, not the slain king, because her original story was she was on a planet, and when what do they call it, the motherland or whatever, our Imperial Empire came, they wiped out her planet, but the one general who led that army kept her alive for whatever reason, right?
That was the kind of Gamora Thanos thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then became her father figure. And then that's the part I think I missed. Did they say what happened to him?
No.
In her backstories? No? Okay.
No. And I think that is going to be what you see in the second part of this.
Okay. Because when he said my daughter, I immediately went to biological father, not the general dude.
No. No, that is the general, the adopted father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now so he's the one who's leading the whole outfit, it looks like. So when the kings and stuff
he's running the whole show. So who do you think assassinated the king and the wife? Do you think it was him? Do you think it was the general? Because she was assigned to the princess.
Yeah, she was assigned to the princess, so she wouldn't have been. Yeah,
or was it her? Did she assassinate him? Did she assassinate King, Queen, Daughter on his orders?
Well, there's a lot we don't know, right? Because we don't even know what we don't know what happened to the princess yet either.
No, we know that she was assassinated the same night as her.
Oh, the princess was killed too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it references it anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't remember because in my head I was like, I wonder if she has the princess hidden somewhere. And then I know lots of people talk about this wanting to jumpstart an IP and stuff like that. I know we're talking about this, but like, there's like, if it does well, they do more of it. It's just that's a prime prequel right there, right? The height of the empire and then the assassination.
100%.
So like, yeah, there's very fertile storytelling available, assuming people are into it. Because let's be honest, like a lot of the critic scores were not too kind to this. I don't think the user
got
reviews are a little bit better.
Rating of 5.8.
Yeah,
not good.
No. But yeah, I think I dug the story, and I think because it's very Star Wars-esque, and I was into it.
Yeah.
So I could kind of complain about the slow-mo action. My only other real gripe or complaint was, again, viewing it with that Star Wars lens, the budget just wasn't there. And if it was, I thought the CGI wasn't all that great.
Interesting.
And when I say that is in particularly the final battle scene is the classic super dark, hazy. You could you use that to obscure detail in the background. You know what I mean? It's like
you didn't like the ode to Luke Skywalker hanging off the balcony.
Yeah.
A little Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. Disney recently did a same kind of thing with the way they designed the final set piece in the Ahsoka World Between Worlds episode with Anakin, right? Because they had that battle fog essentially all over the place. Yeah. But the action inside of it was so crisp, clear, and perfect. Whereas this, it was like sometimes I'm like, what is going on? Like I couldn't tell like what was going on the screen sometimes. Maybe it's because I was maybe watching it in the best conditions, but you have a way better setup than I do.
Yeah, but you're not wrong in it. And when I said I was really excited to watch it, and a part of me loved watching it, I said there was a but. This is where the but is. I think 75% of the movie was the first 75% of that movie was so well executed.
Yeah.
However,
let's hear your butt.
I kind of feel like they got to the 10-yard line and high-fived and then just kind of fell over.
Yeah, like that's my point too. Like
yeah,
I'm trying to pick out what exactly it was, but the final 20 minutes didn't do it for me.
Up until they get captured.
Yeah,
literally. As they're captured, I'll even give the moment where the farmer saves Cora.
Yeah, I like that.
Stuffs Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Like they should have just stopped it at them being captured. Because even the death scene of the rebel leader, who is
the brother of this,
easily Saw Gerrera, that's obviously an homage to Saw and his sister, whose name I always forget.
Yeah,
that's obviously Saw Gerrera, but like you should have just cut it off. It didn't need to be 2 hours and 25 minutes. Hack it off at 150. They're captured. Cut it and let it go to the second because they rushed through that scene. It was stupid why she would have slid underneath the falling ship to fight him when he was probably going to die anyway.
Yeah.
The scene where the inevitable Saw Gerrera character dies. I mean,
And part of the time I'm like, what the hell are they even standing on? Like, it was just, it was so, like, I mean, like, it's like they just, they ran out of money when they got to the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it was,
it's like buying your favorite drink at the bar, and then you're down to that last little bit, and you're like, "What can I get for $4?"
Yeah.
So do you have any Laker lager that I can enjoy for the last 30 minutes of my stay here? They should have just hacked it because up until they were captured, I was all for this. If we were gonna, like, I'm sure we're gonna rate this. My rating was high right up until the point they got captured.
Yeah.
And then it just sorority girled for the last kind of 25 minutes.
Yeah. And I get you had to put some sort of climactic battle in there, and they weren't going to do like the big war battle because that's obviously being saved for part 2.
Why did you need to? It's part 1 of 2.
Because people have no attention span. They need stuff.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. But so yeah, I think we both agree there. And then the little final piece we both like, the whole Neuralink in. But yeah, I actually liked, like, again, we talked about Charlie Hunnam, we didn't want him to see turn bad, but I actually liked that plot twist. Like it caught me off guard. You knew something was.
Why, as an Englishman, did he have to be Irish in this? There's no point to that.
I know. And like, you knew something was happening. He's like, oh, I just got to make this pit stop because I don't want to change my life. Like, with owing a debt or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, you just knew.
Can't wait to leave this life behind.
Yeah. Then it got a little silly, but like I kind of like that all the crates were those little paralyzing traps, and
that was cool.
Nabbed them all and basically said, hey, you guys are literally the most wanted people in the galaxy, and you literally got them all for me.
Yeah.
So like, I was into that part, but yeah, then it really went off the rails.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm thinking too, if it was Star Wars, those little fighters that they're running to, they've been hopping in X-Wings to like peel out of there. But I'm just like, yeah.
Well, it's funny because those looked like the cruisers on Coruscant. Just the normal cruisers that they bombed around on.
Oh yeah.
They looked so much like it was that, and there was a different fighter that they reminded me of, but not X-Wings. And I was like, oh, that's very Star Wars-esque.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, if Disney had their budget behind it, and there are things you could see what it would have looked like. I'm like, okay, maybe, you could have seen some really cool scenes. But yeah,
why do you think he got rejected? So if this was his pitch, say you're sitting back there at Disney back then, why are you saying no to this as a Star Wars title?
Again, if whoever's watching this, correct me if you're wrong, but I think he pitched this before, like, there was a Rogue One and a Solo. So I think they were working on the sequel trilogy, and he pitched this as one of those, I think, Star Wars story type ones. And I just think they had too many projects on the go, and they just said, yeah, we're not going to pursue that this time, because they wanted to do, right, there was supposed to be a Boba Fett movie, an Obi-Wan movie. Like, I think they had so much stuff going on. I don't think it was, Zach, we think your script shit.
2012.
It was 2012 he pitched it?
Filmmaker Zack Snyder earlier revealed that his upcoming space opera.
Yeah.
His upcoming space opera, Rebel Moon, was originally a Star Wars project that he had pitched to Lucasfilm after Disney acquisition in 2012.
Yeah, and The Force Awakens came out in 2015. So, like, I think that's the main reason. He pitched it too early. And he never, Disney, I probably didn't circle back, because again, they came and get a movie out. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like, did you see that? Like 2 days ago was the 1 year anniversary of, or no, was it this year? Or no, yeah, 2 days ago was the original date that Rogue Squadron was supposed to be coming out.
Nice.
And there's hilarious tweets going to be like, oh man, did you guys remember when Bosk showed up in Rogue Squadron? Like,
yeah. And by the way, he pitched it as an R-rated movie.
Yes, and that's the other thing too.
So Zack Snyder pitched an R-rated Star Wars movie to Disney. So I'm assuming that had
he probably went in and basically said, let me make my movie with using your IP and like your story group and all your values you have and all that stuff. You can't interfere with me. Like, I just want to make my movie using
basically wanted to Deadpool Star Wars. Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, we can't do it.
Yeah.
We literally just bought this franchise. We're not going to let you just run wild.
Yeah.
But hey, timing probably didn't work out with that. And I'm glad Zach got to make his movie.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll see. I think for me, the biggest thing is where does part 2 go with it?
Yeah.
That's gonna be the final judgment call I feel on all this, because again, this is literally introducing to the characters what the bad guys are up to, like what they're up against, and like that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like the main admiral didn't even die. Like we already got a fake death scene. So,
but there was a lot of good, definitely a lot of good. Like I said, I think that Star Wars, Marvel, anybody right now can literally learn from the way he introduced characters. In 8 minutes, you connected with those characters, and can you tell me the last time you connected with a new character as quickly as you connected with Nemesis, for example?
Yeah.
Who totally looked like she was rocking lightsabers, by the way. There are a couple lightsabers going on in that. She had the red. I saw a blue one being whisked around.
Yeah, there's a blue one. The so Admiral's side or right-hand man used that to cut down the chief leader's wife or whatever when she went to his aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like again, you could see like, that would have been like some sort of force wielder had that been a Star Wars movie. Yeah, and like I was loving the character.
Broom Boy.
Yeah.
Broom Boy hiding.
Yeah. Like I love the dude who was the prisoner at the blacksmith who didn't wear a shirt the whole time.
So good. He was a fantastic character. Tarek.
Yeah, Tarek.
Who is revealed at the end to be royalty.
Yeah.
Prince Tarek. Anthony Hopkins is the voice of Jimmy. I can never say this person's name right, so I apologize. But Digimon Hunsu.
Yeah.
He just came off an incredible performance in Gran Turismo. He was so good as Titus.
He's been in so many big movies.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's a legit sure thing.
Blood Diamond. Yeah.
All
right, let's rate this thing. What do you think?
I am going to give it an 8.3. For me, it was wildly above expectations. I would be up around 8.7 until the last 20 minutes. I think that there was definitely a dropping of the ball. But I mean, it's an over 8 for me. Again, I know I've said this 17 times already, at how well these characters were introduced and you acclimated to them. My God, was that well done. So for me, it's an 8.3. I can't wait to see where part 2 goes. I hope Zach gets his extra $35 so he can do that battle scene a little bit differently, because I know that after the turmoil of Justice League and
and that's the thing. Like,
I don't want him to be riding that horse, right?
Yeah. Like, and like, what will the director's cut look like for this film?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think I'm at a 7.
Yeah, I figured you'd be low.
And like, again, that's not low. So to me, like, there's a lot of generic sci-fi crap that comes out. This is above that.
Yeah.
Right. But there was just a few things holding it back.
Yeah.
And again, for how much hype Netflix put around this, I thought they could have made it look a little better.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to like, we're in the age now where like top-notch CGI is, and again, I don't know, maybe I'm viewing it wrong and it actually looked great to most people.
Well,
but I thought
I think it was executed the way they wanted it to look.
Yeah.
I think that Zach wanted it to look like a 300. I can't confirm this at all, but there's so much nod to Riddick in there. Like, again, a franchise that did such a good job of having people connect with characters. I think it was done well. The issue is, so for example, I watched this tonight.
Yeah.
And yesterday I watched the first couple episodes of Monarch on Apple TV, A Legacy of Monsters.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Want to talk about zero budget restraints?
Yeah. Godzilla looks
mother
great.
Of God, is it good? It's beyond good.
Yeah.
Like, I watched the first 2 episodes. I'm like, how is this a television show? There's got to be $100 million in the first 2 episodes.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like,
it's bonkers.
We're getting that from TV shows. I just expected. Yeah. And again, like you kind of brought up a little bit, like it also is Zack Snyder's palette. Right?
It's
like
his jam.
It looks like 300. It looks like the end of Justice League, that like orangey, browny, dark.
Yeah, it's very warm. It's almost very graphic novel-like.
Yeah, so maybe that's my problem with it. I don't know, but I don't know. I was expecting, well, for my taste, I prefer a little more the other way, but I appreciate Zack. Like, if you didn't know Zack Snyder directed that movie or wrote it, you would probably guess that was a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah,
it's like the man has a
if
man
you've
has
seen
a
Man
style.
of Steel or Justice League, you're probably pretty aware that was Zack Snyder. Yeah.
So I respect he's got his style and his way of doing things, and that's how he does it. So, but yeah, that score could change depending on how part 2, and what the director's cut looks like, right? Like the director's cut, the Snyder cut. It's crazy now we're talking about the Snyder cut. Like, does the Snyder cut bump it up to an 8, a 9? Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
we'll have to wait for that.
I will tell you that, like everybody else, I did not love Justice League, but the Snyder cut 4-hour Justice League, the first 9 minutes of it was absolute magic. Like, yeah, it was way better.
Yeah.
And all right.
I think that's what they're banking on.
All right, fair enough.
Snyder cut. All right. I don't know the next Star Wars we're actually going to get, but whenever that happens, we'll be back on. We're getting four shows next year.
Yeah. So we'll be on lots.
Yeah, Andor's delayed, but we're getting Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte, Bad Batch, and Tales of the Jedi season 2.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Probably one per quarter, I would imagine.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That will do it for us. Let us know in the comments what you thought of Rebel Moon, and are you pumped up to see how this thing ends? And we'll see you all on the next one, whenever that is. Peace out, everyone.
Cheers.